DOJ attorney Julie Lee broke down in Minneapolis courtroom saying, "This job sucks. The system sucks. I want to be thrown in jail for 24 hours so I can get some sleep." And sources suggest her meltdown might reveal complete collapse of Trump's enforcement operation.
Many of those detained have no criminal history and argue they're being held illegally. Courts have usually sided with them, but Minnesota's chief judge says ICE is ignoring those orders. So I dug into the cases today.
We're not talking about random person on street complaining about job. We're talking about reports that attorney who volunteered to help Department of Justice in Minneapolis, who used to work for ICE, appeared in tears before Judge Blackwell explaining why so many court orders have been violated. That she told federal judge, "We have no guidance or direction on what we need to do," while trying to defend ICE's repeated contempt of judicial orders. That Chief Judge Schultz declared in extraordinary order that ICE has violated more court orders in January 2026 than some federal agencies have violated in their entire existence. That 96 court orders in 74 different cases were violated in Minnesota alone in single month. And what might make this moment so significant is what it reveals about system breakdown. Sources suggest U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota so depleted that most staff and all leadership walked out the door, ICE ignoring court orders, repeatedly requiring nonstop work from handful of remaining lawyers. Reports indicate Julie Lee admitting in court it's been like pulling teeth to get ICE to comply with orders. That office is running ragged without manpower or institutional focus. When attorney breaks down crying telling judge she can't get her client to abide by orders, when she literally asks to be jailed so she can rest, that's not normal legal proceeding. That could be visible collapse of Trump's enforcement system, where violations are so systematic, guidance so absent, that even lawyers trying to defend administration are publicly crumbling under impossible burden. But before we break down Chief Judge Schultz's warning about holding ICE officials in contempt and why depleted U.S. Attorney Office signals broader collapse, real quick, you cannot trust mainstream media to explain how 96 violated court orders in single month represents systematic contempt rather than isolated mistakes. That's why we built John Brown's show to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want analysis that actually shows how attorneys' courtroom breakdown reveals enforcement operations, so chaotic even defenders can't justify them, hit that subscribe button right now. All right, let's get into what Julie Lee's breakdown actually reveals and why sources suggest it represents Canary in coal mine for Trump's entire operation. Because think about her background. She worked in immigration court representing ICE. That's a thankless job to begin with. Reports indicate she decided to leave that position and help U.S. Attorney's Office in Minneapolis. Why? Because there's only about 5 or 6 people left there. Most of office and all senior leadership walked out the door. Things are so bad that during discussion, departing Border Patrol head Greg Bavino actually thought it was okay to make fun of replacement U.S. attorney's religion, complaining about Orthodox Jewish attorney not being available on Sabbath. That's how low morale is in office. Julie Lee volunteered to help. Sources suggest now she's appearing before Judge Blackwell, who's handling 5 cases out of hundreds of habeas corpus petitions. People languishing without due process in ICE detention centers trying to get before federal judges while orders get violated over and over. Julie Lee tells judge they have no guidance, admits system sucks, admits job sucks, says she's trying with every breath to comply, but office is depleted and it's been like pulling teeth to get ICE to follow orders. Reports indicate when attorney breaks down in tears admitting she can't get enforcement agency to obey judicial orders, when she's working non-stop in depleted office without institutional support, when her response to impossible situation is asking judge to jail her so she can sleep, that reveals operations so fundamentally broken that even people trying to defend them are publicly collapsing under strain. Let's start with Chief Judge Schultz's extraordinary order because sources suggest this documents scale of contempt. In January 2026 alone, 96 court orders in 74 different cases were violated in Minnesota. Chief Judge wrote that ICE has violated more court orders in single month than some federal agencies violate in their entire existence. Reports indicate he believes number is actually underreported, meaning real violations might be even higher. That's not occasional mistakes or good faith disagreements about compliance. That might be systematic pattern of ignoring judicial authority. Think about what this means. Sources suggest federal judges issue orders in habeas corpus cases telling ICE when to produce detainees, what procedures to follow, what constitutional rights to respect. ICE is supposed to follow those orders unless they're overturned or vacated through proper appellate process. Reports indicate, but instead, ICE is just ignoring orders, violating them repeatedly, creating situation where judges issue commands that enforcement agency treats as suggestions. Chief Judge Schultz wrote, "ICE is not a law unto itself," and warned that ICE has every right to challenge orders, but has to follow orders unless they're overturned. When Chief Judge has to explicitly state that enforcement agency must obey judicial orders, that reveals agency operating outside normal rule of law framework. And there's practical impact on detainees. Sources suggest hundreds or thousands of people picked up by ICE, languishing in detention centers without proper due process. They get lawyers who file habeas petitions to get before federal judges. Reports indicate judges issue orders about how these cases should proceed, what rights detainees have, when hearings must occur. But if ICE violates those orders 96 times in single month, that means people sitting in detention longer than legally permitted, missing hearings they're entitled to, denied rights judges ordered protected. That's not just procedural problem. That might be constitutional crisis where executive branch is systematically defying judicial branch. Think about Chief Judge Schultz's warning. Sources suggest he wrote that future non-compliance may result in show cause orders requiring personal appearance of Todd Lyons, head of ICE, or other government officials. Reports indicate that's threat of contempt proceedings against top officials. When Chief Judge warns he'll haul ICE leadership into court to explain violations, when he's threatening contempt citations, that shows judicial patience exhausted, shows judges recognizing they need enforcement mechanisms beyond just issuing more orders that might get ignored. But step back and consider why U.S. Attorney's Office is so depleted, because sources suggest this reveals broader collapse. Most staff and all senior leadership in Minnesota U.S. Attorney's Office walked out the door. Reports indicate that's not normal turnover. That's mass exodus of experienced prosecutors who can't or won't do what Trump administration demands. Now, office is down to about 5 or 6 people trying to handle all federal prosecutions, plus defending ICE in dozens of habeas cases, plus responding to contempt threats from Chief Judge. Think about what Julie Lee described. Sources suggest no guidance or direction on what they need to do. Office running ragged. Can't get ICE to comply with court orders despite nonstop work. Reports indicate she's literally telling federal judge that she can't perform her duties as attorney because her client won't follow her advice, won't obey orders, and she has no institutional support to compel compliance. That's attorney publicly admitting she can't do her job, can't fulfill her obligations as officer of court because administration she represents is so dysfunctional that even its own lawyers can't make it work. And there's context of what office is dealing with. Sources suggest not just habeas cases, but also investigations into deaths of Renee Good and Alex Priddy, American citizens killed during ICE operations. Dozens and dozens more deaths related to ICE interactions, whether in detention or on streets. Reports indicate, but office isn't properly investigating in collaboration with state officials. They're too depleted, too overwhelmed, too lacking in guidance to conduct proper investigations of federal agents potentially committing crimes. When U.S. Attorney's Office can't investigate killings by federal agents because they're too busy defending those same agents in court while staff keeps quitting, that might represent complete breakdown of accountability. Share this video with everyone you know because there's what Judge Blackwell told Julie Lee. Sources suggest he said this is problem of Department of Justice's own making. Reports indicate nobody wants to work there, everybody has quit, and violations stem from administration's choices about how to operate. Judge isn't expressing sympathy. He's pointing out that when you run office so badly that all experienced staff leaves, when you pursue policies so extreme that attorneys can't defend them, when you ignore court orders systematically creating more work for remaining lawyers, you've created your own crisis. Julie Lee might be victim of impossible situation, but situation exists because of Trump administration's decisions. But let's examine what this reveals about entire enforcement operation, because sources suggest Minnesota might not be isolated. If U.S. Attorney's Office there is depleted because leadership and staff walked out, similar situations could be developing in other districts facing ICE surge. Reports indicate if Minnesota office can't handle workload with 5 or 6 people, if they have no guidance from Washington, if ICE ignores their legal advice about complying with orders, that pattern might exist wherever Trump's enforcement operations are concentrated. Think about sustainability question. Sources suggest you can't run federal law enforcement with mass staff departures, no guidance, systematic court order violations, and lawyers breaking down in tears. Reports indicate at some point systems simply can't function. Cases don't get prosecuted. Orders don't get followed. Investigations don't happen. Attorneys quit or burn out. And judges start threatening contempt against officials who think they're above law. When enforcement operations create this much chaos, this much court defiance, this much staff turnover, they might not be sustainable beyond short term, regardless of political will. And there's what happens next. Sources suggest Chief Judge Schultz warning he'll require personal appearances by ICE leadership means contempt proceedings might be coming. Reports indicate if ICE continues violating orders, if U.S. Attorney's Office can't compel compliance, judges will start finding officials in contempt. That creates legal jeopardy for people running operations. When faced with potential contempt citations, fines, possibly even jail time for defying courts, officials might start following orders or they might resign rather than face consequences. Either way, enforcement operations get constrained or disrupted. Share this with everyone because there's Julie Lee's likely fate. Sources suggest she might get fired for telling truth in court, for admitting system is broken, for breaking down publicly in ways that embarrass administration. Reports indicate next story could be that she was terminated for being Canary in coal mine, for revealing what everyone involved knows, but nobody is supposed to say out loud. If she does get fired for honesty, that would confirm everything she said about system being broken, about lack of guidance, about impossible working conditions created by administration's choices. So here's what DOJ lawyers' breakdown reveals. Attorney Julie Lee, who volunteered to help depleted U.S. Attorney's Office in Minneapolis, broke down crying before Judge Blackwell saying, "This job sucks, the system sucks, I want to be thrown in jail for 24 hours so I can get some sleep." She told Judge, "We have no guidance or direction on what we need to do," while explaining why so many court orders have been violated. Chief Judge Schultz issued extraordinary order, declaring ICE violated 96 court orders in 74 different cases in Minnesota in January 2026 alone. More violations in single month than some agencies commit in entire existence. He warned future non-compliance may result in personal appearances by ICE head or other officials threatening contempt proceedings. Sources suggest U.S. Attorney's Office so depleted that most staff and all senior leadership walked out, leaving 5 or 6 people to handle federal prosecutions, plus dozens of habeas cases. Julie Lee admitted in court it's been like pulling teeth to get ICE to comply with orders. That office is running ragged without manpower or institutional focus. When attorney breaks down telling judge she can't get client to obey orders, when she asks to be jailed so she can rest from nonstop work, when chief judge warns he'll haul ICE leadership into court for contempt, when mass staff exodus leaves office unable to function, that's not normal legal proceeding. That might be visible collapse of Trump's enforcement system, where violations are so systematic, guidance so absent, workload so impossible that even lawyers trying to defend administration are publicly crumbling, revealing operations fundamentally broken and potentially unsustainable. Stay tuned.